Hey, what's going on, guys? Tougie here, back again with what will hopefully be a quick little update video, but it is official. The second version of my custom roster has been uploaded for the Xbox Series consoles, both S and X. It is the Trade Deadline Edition, just posted now. Make sure to check it out. Shout out to the almost 1,000 of you that have checked out the first one there. Very much appreciate that. Of course, it was the latest I ever imagined I would upload the first edition of one of my rosters, but hey, still some very, very solid support, and I thank you for that. Of course, again, if you're on a different console, nothing I can do for you, unfortunately. With the way I've edited my rosters, there's way too much work. Of course, if you want to see a lot of the changes that I have made, particularly to the NHL side of things, I did put out a video alongside that initial version showcase, so to speak, and it will show you why I simply don't have the time to re-edit this. I will more than likely finally upload like the AHL, maybe even redo the NHL, because obviously the rosters have changed quite a bit. So when it comes to the trade deadline update, here are the main features, so to speak. First and foremost, every team is cap compliant. All the transactions have gone through. The other main aspect of this, though, as always, is that the draft picks are going to technically be incorrect. There is nothing we can do for that in regards to making draft picks accurate. EA have still not given us the ability to move said picks on our own, which absolutely sucks. And hopefully, eventually, maybe, possibly, potentially, we will be given the ability to do that, but for now, it is just moving players, prospects, and whatever towards their proper teams and such. But with that, and shout out to this Arizona Coyotes defense, Jesus Christ. With that, of course, when you start up a franchise mode, you have the ability to either, just go with where this roster started with draft picks that are a little bit out of date, but at one point were accurate, or, of course, you could go with the option to just have it be, the legacy kind of thing where every team gets 1 through 7. That is very much up to you. Should note as well, these rosters are based off of what Elite Prospects had the night of the deadline, March 3rd. So, hey, if you think it's a little bit out of date, whatever, for the most part, though, it's not going to make too big of a difference. And, of course, overall's potentials, they'll be updated once again at the end of the year. So certain people who maybe do deserve a higher rating will eventually get that. But you'll see certain, cap hits that are technically incorrect. Let's go back to Arizona, for example, with $12 million of Juuso Valimaki. When I said that teams are, cap compliant, certain teams like Arizona, obviously we take out the likes of the recently acquired Jakub Voracek, so on and so forth. As well, we had to add certain cap retentions, which we don't have the ability to do it behind the scenes like EA does. So we have to add it to players like Juuso Valimaki, who, of course, it's a lot of money for him to make everybody cap compliant. But hey, for the most part, it works out pretty well. But I did want to say in regards to the draft picks, let's be honest, with the way the trade deadline was and the way a lot of, kind of moves are made now, really, it's not all that big of a deal for me in terms of draft picks being incorrect, because EA can't necessarily make those draft picks accurate either, because of the consistent use of conditional picks. They can only essentially, hand out like the best available result, but the best available result doesn't always happen. So try to think of it that way if the draft picks bother you that much. Or, of course, EA should have their own roster update out relatively soon that will have things updated. But, of course, custom roster like this, not only, of course, in my opinion, do I feel like I end up with, then again, hey, the overalls are based off of statistical standpoints and, analytics. There's no personal opinion. So I do feel like the rosters end up being a little bit more accurate to what certain players should be at this point in time. And of course, we have the ability to add in players that EA might not have the rights to add in, particularly with prospects. But the trade deadline in general, should note, of course, that the Tougie's Take podcast returned upon my return from Finland, and we had an over 2 hour show recorded. Audio version's definitely out by the time you are watching this. The video version should be out on the Tougie's Take podcast YouTube channel, but we talked about everything. Myself, Endo Mills, of course, my longtime co-host on the show, twitch.tv/Endo Mills, and a good friend of the channel, Danny Webster, who is a writer for the Las Vegas Sun, covering the Vegas Golden Knights, Danny Webster 21 on Twitter. And we went through every team, kind of gave a pass, fail, or somewhere in between, because this was really one of the most wild trade deadlines of all time. I mean, deadline day itself was obviously a little bit lackluster because most of the big moves were done prior to that, but still, the 2-3 weeks before actual deadline day, things were absolutely crazy. It was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. We go through every team, kind of give our thoughts on what happened. So if you're wondering, like, hey, what'd you think about this team and what they did, make sure to check out the podcast if you haven't already done so. And if you didn't know about the podcast, well, now you know. And I think that pretty much covers everything. The draft pick conversation, teams being cap compliant. Should note as well, within franchise mode, for the most part, you'll end up with these rosters, you'll end up with the best job that can really be done in terms of trying to stop the AI from being dumb, playing people out of position, playing top sixers on their fourth line. I do what I can to best counteract this game's, frankly, incredible shortcomings in a lot of regards. But we'll have some new franchise mode stuff starting up very, very soon as well. Now that these rosters are good to go, it certainly didn't really make sense to start anything, before the deadline. But now that these rosters are set, I think it's time to jump back in, get some franchise mode going again, because the entire NHL has essentially changed, particularly the Eastern Conference went absolutely nuts. I mean, case in point here, Tarasenko and Kane. Of course, I had to drop Kane's salary that much more to make sure the Rangers were cap compliant within franchise mode. But yeah, things have changed drastically, to say the least. So not only am I excited to kind of see what happens from the real life NHL perspective, certainly the video game side of things as well, and just how, ridiculous franchise mode might be, for better or worse. I think it's always kind of ridiculous. And the big question is, what team are we going to use? Because you know me, if you've been on this channel for a while, we love a good rebuilder. We just went past Philadelphia. They are certainly in need of a different opinion as far as a GM is concerned. Flyers fans, I am so sorry as to what you are having to deal with right now. You don't deserve it. I don't know if anybody deserves having to watch their favorite professional sports team be that mismanaged. And it's pretty rough. It's pretty rough. Of course, there are some other ones as well. We're coming up on the Vancouver Canucks here in a moment. St. Louis is a little bit more interesting. They're kind of rebuilding. I still can't believe they got Jakub Vrana for essentially nothing. That's ridiculous, especially if he returns to form. But yeah, Vancouver coming up, another team I've been asked a lot to kind of return to Vancouver in a series and try to turn things around for them. Shout out to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Kyle Dubas going for it, as he should. This defense is something else. I respect it. But yeah, the Canucks are, they are in some sort of way right now, I think is the best way to describe it. The Vegas Golden Knights, of course, made some moves because it's the Vegas Golden Knights, and that's all they ever do is make moves. Freaking Jonathan Quick is a member of the Golden Knights. Should note, didn't upgrade goalie equipment or anything like that because the edit player glitch is still very much in the game. Outside of, I think I gave Morgan Geekie the pink visor. That was about it, because I don't need to actually see the gear to be able to make those changes. But yeah, trade deadline update. Every transaction is accurate. For the most part, contracts are accurate as well. I do want to mention there are a couple of contracts that I can't necessarily add in because of just the way this game works and players being auto-signed. So if you're a Red Wings fan, you won't see John Lethamon, I don't know. And then Jackson Weebe, I don't know, for the Anaheim Ducks. Certain guys like that you might just see on AH-only deals and not actually be signed within franchise mode. Now I think I mentioned everything. Check out the other videos if you're confused by some of the overalls. I didn't even show you the attributes, which is always a scary thing. But I think that will do it. So version 2 of the roster is out now. Check it out. Or don't. Complain about it. Or enjoy it. I don't know. But thanks for watching. That's all I know. I'm going to bed. Good night.